Hi, welcome back to Friend Crush. I'm your host, Amber Akilla. This is my podcast where I talk about stuff and things, cute, chaotic, and critical thinking. I'm a DJ and creative consultant. You can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok at Amber Akilla, and on Spotify and SoundCloud for playlists and mixes at Amber Akilla. You can also send me questions and feedback for the podcast on the podcast meme page on Instagram at friend.crush. I want to start doing like Q&A at the end of each episode now. So if you send me a message, I will answer it anonymously in future episodes and let you know. Obviously, I don't think I'll be able to answer every question, but I'm going to try to put like maybe 2 to 3 questions at the end of each episode. So send me your questions. And I think we can do like an overrated, underrated episode in the future too, or something. I don't know. Let's see. But yeah, I really appreciate feedback and people letting me know that they've tuned in or like what their favorite episode is, what their takeaways are. And if you have any suggestions for future topics, I would love to hear from you. So send them through on the Friend Crush Instagram. And yeah, I hope everyone's doing well. Today's episode, I'm going to be talking about my skincare journey. I mean, recently I've had a lot of people ask me about my skincare routine, which is like really surprising because I had really bad skin, not necessarily growing up, but I went through like a really bad period. Not bad because I don't think that like having good or bad skin makes you like a good or bad person, but I had a very like problematic period with my skin kind of in my late teens, like early 20s. I had like late puberty, I guess. And it took me quite a few years to sort of like figure out how to balance my skin out, what would work for me. And I'm obviously not an expert. I'm just a lay person who's gone through a bunch of different trial and error in terms of how I approach skincare. So I thought I would just kind of talk about what I have been through and then my general approach to skincare, and then maybe there's like some takeaways that you might be able to apply in your life, or it might help you to reflect on your approach, because I feel like now, especially as the skincare industry has grown and we're just like inundated with the development of new products and marketing and everything, it can get really overwhelming. And in fact, I found that a simpler approach is much more effective than one that involves like a lot of products or a lot of different treatments. Yeah, I'm just going to share what I've been through, and I hope that it's somewhat helpful, or it can just maybe facilitate some reflection for you. So let's get into it. Okay, I'm sorry if you can hear like the aircon blowing in the background, but it's literally so hot that I would not be able to speak without the aircon on, and I'd be like melting into my chair. Anyway, the history of my skin. So when I was younger, I had great skin. Okay, I didn't really go through any like hormonal kind of acne when I was going through puberty and like getting my first period and stuff. But when I was younger, I was really into fashion and fashion magazines. So I actually think that I was like subconsciously being programmed into thinking that people's skin was like actually flawless. So this like photoshopping, skin retouching thing did sort of have an effect on me, because I don't know why I felt like, I mean, it probably also stemmed from different insecurities I might have had at the time and maybe like anxiety, but it's almost like I induced acne later in my teens / early 20s because I was picking at my skin. Like every time I got a pimple, I would freak out, and I thought that I had bad skin when my skin was actually just normal. So I kept trying to like treat my skin with all these really harsh chemicals, and then it would irritate my skin and make it worse. And then I would keep trying to buy other products thinking that like I was one product away from having perfect skin, and I just was irritating my skin and making it worse. On top of the fact that when I started law school, I fucking hated law school, and I was in law school for 6 years because I was doing a double degree. So yeah, the depression and like the lack of balance in my lifestyle and diet definitely would have affected my skin. And I think my mental state overall was kind of like the root cause because I was depressed, anxious, stressed. This affected, like the way that I ate. It affected the amount of sleep I was getting. And then it also affected like the way that I would look at my skin. Like I hated the way that I looked, or I would get so anxious about one pimple and then more and more pimples would just keep popping up. So I still have like a lot of scarring on my face, which I guess you can see in person more than you can through the screen. So I don't want to like come across as if like, oh, my skin is absolutely perfect and flawless now. Like I definitely have scarring, which is fine. Like it's normal for your skin to have texture because you're a human being, not a 3D rendering. I honestly like didn't think that there would be a day where I would have clear skin again, because I just felt like I was dealing with, it was like whack-a-mole. Like one pimple would go away, then more would come up. I had them on my cheeks, on my forehead. It was a rough time. And I guess in the scheme of things, like it wasn't like cystic, chronically bad acne, obviously, so I'm lucky in that sense. But I feel like, the experience that I had with that and the way that I manage my skin now is sort of just like a general approach that anybody that's not dealing with like chronic problems can maybe consider. This isn't medical advice, disclaimer, but I'm just going to be sharing the process. So one thing to think about as well is like between, I don't know, like the late 2010s to now, there has been such huge growth in the skincare industry. Before, there was only like drugstore products and designer products, I feel. And then there was this huge like middle gap in the market for kind of like these indie brands coming up, like diffusion brands, and then specialty brands, all this stuff, like so much investment into technology and development, and then also marketing as well. And I think I became so overwhelmed with all of this information and thinking that like I said before, oh, if I just get these products, then my skin will be okay. If I just get that product, then my skin will be okay. And my mom even told me at the time, she was like, stop switching and changing products like every other week. You're going to make your skin worse because you're just irritating it. It can't get used to it. And I was literally like brainwashed and convinced that I was one product away from having clear skin. Then on top of the fact that like K-beauty became really big as well. So it was like double the amount of information. Like growing up in Australia, there's like Western skincare, and then learning about Korean skincare. There's like so many things, so many different ways for me to waste money and make my skin worse. And now I feel like I've found a balance between the two. Like I actually really like a lot of drugstore products. And then I do really like Asian skincare as well. I'm not like a full-on 10-step Korean beauty skincare routine. And I'm not like completely drugstore or no products at all. So somewhere in between is what works for me. And I just looked up before I started recording, like the size of the beauty industry. Let me see if I have the stats still. Where is it? Oopsie. Yeah, so the global skincare market size from 2012 to 2025, it is growth from in 2013 $103 billion US dollars, and then that it's estimated to grow to 189.3 billion US dollars by 2025. That's crazy. Skincare industry has witnessed a shift from demand from older consumers to a growing younger consumer base. People are beginning to use skincare at an increasingly young age in a bid to delay the signs of aging, while the number of older consumers is beginning to fall. Skincare companies may adapt their marketing strategies to correct this balance and hold on to their older consumer base. So even with that language, it's like they're going to adapt their marketing strategies to correct the balance and then hold on to the older consumer base. So it's not even about like whether older consumers really need to be buying that much skincare. It's just that they're going to be marketing so that people buy stuff, basically. The US skincare and toiletries market in general is benefiting from rising demand for natural and organic products with a faster growth rate than that of the overall market. In 2016, 57% of US women said it was important to buy all natural skincare products. Therefore, companies continue to offer consumers innovative products, concentrating on developing environmentally friendly products, either made locally or using locally sourced ingredients. Anti-aging products also represent a strong growth area in the US cosmetics and toiletries market. In 2014, the leading skincare brand in the United States was Olay Regenerist, a facial anti-aging brand that is owned by Procter & Gamble, with sales that amounted to approximately $103 million US. The US anti-aging skincare market generated about $2.11 billion US in 2013, with that figure expected to decrease to $2.05 billion US by 2015. In light of falling consumer confidence, companies operating in the skincare product market are concentrating on offering consumers cheaper alternatives to their usual skincare regimes. Own brand products also rose in popularity as consumers sought to continue caring for their skin while limiting their spending on non-essential items. Interesting. So yeah, I feel like there's been so much growth even in just what's available in terms of skincare. Like we've seen such a crazy rise in the multitudes of ways that consumerism permeates every single facet of our existence. There's so many options for every product category now in a way that there just wasn't when I was younger. And I feel like, it's good in some ways because there's innovation, there's new things being developed, but at the same time it's bad because it's not good for the environment, and like not every single product needs to be created. I don't think. But yeah, so I think for regular people with regular problems, simple is better. And, a lot of products all get made in the same sorts of factories, or they're all being developed by similar labs, and then they're just being packaged with different labels and marketed to different like age groups or whatever. But ultimately, like the general kind of product is the same. That's why I think for a lot of things, it's like better to start simple and then build than to think that you need to spend the most money or have the most things, So like I talk about this in terms of even just like my approach to exercise as someone who didn't grow up athletic and like generally hates physical activity. I managed to change the way I approach it by, instead of thinking I had to join the best gym or pay for the most expensive classes, I was like, if I can just do this at home for like 10 minutes a day, stretching or doing yoga, I'm going to start small and then slowly build up. And then now I can decide like what areas I want to spend money in. Like, okay, yes, I enjoy doing pole dance. I'm going to spend money there, and then I can stretch at home. Or maybe I don't want to do pole at the moment. I want to do yoga, or I want to do Pilates. I can spend a bit of money there. But at the end of the day, I know I can still look after myself physically using my phone or my laptop at home. Like I don't have to be in a gym. I don't have to be in a studio. And I think I take a similar approach to skincare as well. Like, because I've done the absolute bare minimum to my skin and it's been okay, and I haven't died or turned into an ogre, or I haven't had a crazy breakout from using very minimal products, then I can decide, okay, I'm going to treat myself to a fancy toner or to a fancy serum or to an active, and then go from there, instead of thinking I have to buy every single active, I have to buy every serum, make sure that every like product is expensive or popular or trending. I mean, I never went in like that deep, but there was definitely periods where I was like spending more money than I needed to and just wasting products and irritating my skin. So because I pared it all back, used the most basic stuff, and my skin was fine, then I could slowly add in other products and then actually see what was and wasn't responding well to my skin. Because when I was using all different kinds of products with all different kinds of actives, I didn't know what was and wasn't working, and then none of it would work really. So that's the history. So the next thing is non-product related changes that I made to improve my skin. I definitely try to take a holistic approach to life and wellness in like a non corny way. I think you can be like spiritual or take a holistic approach to your life without having to buy into the aesthetic of those things and be like a hemp wearing hippie or whatever. Like, no shade to the people that are, but I think sometimes you feel like it has to be one or the other, and it's less about the aesthetic and more about the functionality of certain things in your life and like whether or not it actually brings anything to you. So for me, having a holistic approach to my life is important, but it doesn't mean I need to have like a holistic aesthetic, if that makes any sense. So when it comes to non-product related things that are important for the health of my skin and my general well-being, I feel like this applies across the board. And I know that it's so annoying to hear this kind of advice because we have been conditioned, I feel, to think that there is just one product that's going to solve a lot of problems. There is just one procedure that's going to make a lot of problems go away. But life is a journey and everything is changing all the time, and we're constantly trying to find a place of balance, and you can never really like capture a moment. You can only experience it, and then some other bullshit comes along. So it's about like managing the bullshit in any area of our life, including in your general well-being and your skincare and your wellness. So I think around like 2017, 2018, I had moved to Shanghai and I was working full time. I was DJing like every week almost, like crazy schedule, and traveling a lot as well. And my skin had like kind of improved a bit because I was less depressed, but I wasn't sleeping well. I didn't have a balanced diet, and I definitely didn't drink enough water. So I think with any changes that we make in terms of lifestyle, it's helpful to start small, like I said, and do one or two things at a time so that you can be consistent and build a new habit before you add a new one. Before, I would be like, okay, I'm doing full life overhaul. I'm going to sleep well. I'm going to drink water. I'm going to change my diet. I'm going to exercise. I'm going to do this. And then like everything would fall apart after one day because I would just be so overwhelmed with like trying to change every single part of my life. It was always like one step forward, two steps back, which I've talked about before. So for me, I just was like, okay, cut the crap, one thing at a time. Okay, I'm going to start drinking water more during the day. So I would have like a big mason jar or water bottle next to my desk, and I would just like make sure that I was staying hydrated. I would drink at least like 2 of them a day. That made a huge difference. Then so that I try to do consistently for like a month or something. So another thing that I try to do is like just put notes in my calendar, in my iCal. I'll be like, okay, this day start drinking water regularly. And then in 4 weeks time, I'll set another reminder being like, drinking water checkup. So then it's like, okay, just do it for 4 weeks. Don't even think about it. Don't like check in with yourself and like see if after one day like your life has changed. You need at least like 4 weeks, if not 6 to 8 weeks, for a new habit to kind of form and to actually see results in your body and like reflected in your skin. So I would do things like, okay, I'm going to drink more water. And then I started making sure that I was going to bed earlier. So I was cutting back on playing club gigs. And my mom actually hates that I DJ because she'd always be like, you need to go to bed earlier. It's bad for your skin. You're going to get wrinkles. And, you know, I try to find a happy medium between the two. Obviously haven't been DJing much in the last 2 years the way that I used to. And even before the panini, I was working more in like brands. I was working more for like brand events as a DJ, so all of those events finished by 10 p.m. anyway, so I was lucky in that sense. But going to bed earlier is so important. Sleep and rest is so important for the body, so important for general well-being. We're constantly romanticizing hustle culture and like self-destructive behavior as if it's like cool, which is definitely something I had to unlearn, especially after working in nightlife. It's always like, who's going to pull the longest all-nighter? Who's going to go to the most parties in a week? Like, it's dumb. Basically, so bad for you. No wonder why so many people in nightlife have mental health issues. That on top of like drinking culture, drug culture. So sleep is so important. And again, you can just start small. Like, okay, I'm going to try to go to bed like half an hour earlier than usual. And I guess people generally say between like 6 to 8 hours every night. You can see what works for you. You can see, okay, is it better for you to go to bed at 11 and then wake up a little bit later or whatever? I don't know. I'm still working on my sleep schedule, but just like a few more hours a week of sleep helped me so much. And it also helped me to manage like excess water weight that I was carrying. I think like I was able to, it's just like your body does a lot of healing while you're asleep, and also your brain processes a lot of the things that you experience during the day while you're sleeping as well. So it's really important for general well-being, and also stress management is so important for skin, because stress causes the release of cortisol and adrenaline in your body, which then causes increased oil production in your skin glands, which can lead to clogged pores and acne breakouts. So stress management is important for like your just life in general. It's the root of so many health issues. And again, we romanticize being stressed, being busy, being overwhelmed. Like, who's the busiest? Who that makes them the coolest? Who has the least time management? Who has the most shit going on? And at the end of the day, I feel like the only person that takes an L at the end of that kind of attitude and lifestyle is you, because you kind of like perform this busyness for other people, but then you are the one that has to suffer all the consequences of not having proper stress management. And like in some ways your ego is rewarded for it, because that's kind of what society is romanticizing or fetishizing or rewarding. But finding the balance between, you know, working hard, being diligent and being committed to the work that you do, but then also knowing when to take a break. And that's not something that you can necessarily unlearn overnight or reframe overnight. I feel like I'm going to be dealing with this like for me, I struggle so much with like my output levels. Like, did I do enough? Was I productive enough? And even though I enjoy doing nothing and I recognize the value of in between times and taking rest, sometimes I still feel guilty for like taking a break when I definitely deserve it. So something to just be mindful of. And I have other episodes like spiritual versus superficial self-care and like grounding exercises to keep the crazy at bay. I talk a lot about like meditation, journaling, and exercise. And then as things to help manage just like being alive and like staying grounded in this crazy life. I actually, the more I think about it, the more I just don't know how people are like raw dogging life. And I think if you're like without any self-management sort of practices like journaling or meditation or physical activity, I guess the other side of that coin is like self-medicating, whether you're on like prescription medication, or I think a lot of people are like actually smoking weed, which I didn't realize, especially in the US now, and also like any sort of like prescription medications as well. So I'm not a health professional. I'm not going to tell people what to do, but I do think that there is value in spending a little bit of time seeing what your life can be like, or your mental state can be like, without having to rely on drugs to stay like mentally stable if you don't have like serious chronic issues. Like even when I talk to women about their experiences with birth control, especially with the pill, so many women experienced a positive shift in their life after going off birth control for a few months, because like your hormone balance is so important to your well-being and just like the way that you function. And it's so normalized the way that women are expected to just alter or change their hormone balance for what, I don't know, like to have clearer skin, even though like the root issue of their like problematic skin is not addressed by taking the pill, or to avoid getting pregnant but still be at risk of getting an STI. Like, what? I don't know. Don't let me tell you what to do, but I think it's concerning the way that we're just expected to like take medications to fix problems that might have root causes that actually need to be addressed, and like the way that not addressing those root problems manifests long term as something else that you might not be able to trace back to whatever the original root was, because it's been so long, and then you have so much more healing and recovery that you need to do as a result. So raw dogging life, I don't know how people do it. I have so many things I need to do for stress management. Also like digital distancing as well, like making sure that I don't spend too much time just like scrolling mindlessly on my phone, because I find that like even though I enjoy the chaos of being online, I'm always furrowing my brow when I'm looking at things, because I'm like, what the hell is this? Like, or I'm just like cringing at stuff or laughing. And, you know, I haven't gotten Botox yet, and I want to delay having to get any Botox for as long as possible, if not never having to get it, because I just feel like beauty industrial complex is so fucked. And to be able to get older and become wiser and more experienced as a person, I think is like such an important human experience. And this idea that that is invalidated because you age with it is like bizarre to me. And I'm just petty as fuck. So if I can participate a little less in the chokehold of the patriarchy upon me and my life, I will do whatever I can. So digital distancing, stress management, grounding exercises definitely helped a lot in my general well-being, which obviously affects my skin as well. And then other things to consider is like my diet. I don't have like a specific diet, but general things that I try to keep in mind is like how much meat I consume. I'm not fully vegetarian or vegan. I was vegan for a while. It didn't work for me. I don't have to eat meat every single day. I kind of default to like eggs and seafood most of the time. But yeah, watching my animal product intake, I don't eat or drink a lot of dairy. I fucking hate the taste of milk. I actually think it's like repulsive. But, you know, every now and then a little cheese, whatever, it's okay. And so basically I feel like you don't need to take any specific diet, but you can just try to increase the amount of fruits and vegetables that you eat. Like try to eat more unprocessed food instead of processed food, you know, because obviously processed food has a lot of sugar, a lot of refined carbohydrates, just things that are not so good for your general health, which then obviously affect your skin as well. So where possible, try to eat more whole foods like fruits, vegetables, whole grains, that kind of thing. And then you can just treat yourself with the other stuff, you know, like I'm not like on a super clean diet. I still enjoy junk food here and there, but I'm not like having it every single day. I don't even really have that much of a craving for it because I don't eat it that often, but I enjoy it when I do. Okay, another thing that's non-product related is exercise, which I guess is part of like stress management and grounding exercises. And I think again, like my attitude towards exercise has changed so much as I've gotten older, because I think about it in terms of like mental health and general well-being, not just like, oh, trying to be skinny or trying to lose weight, which I think is not a sustainable way to approach physical exercise, because it can be so self-punishing. Like when I hear other women talk about like, oh, like I'm trying to lose weight and I didn't go for a run today, so I'm gonna have to go to the gym for like 4 hours or something. It's so depressing. If like, especially if your job isn't to be skinny, what is the point of like stressing yourself out over being a certain weight, I think? And if you approach your life and your wellness from the perspective of I just want to be healthy, happy, balanced, that will naturally kind of get you to a healthy weight for your body type. I think that when I just approach exercise with like, I need to move my body to keep my circulation going, to sweat every now and then to get toxins out, because I want to increase my endorphin release so that I can feel happy and not in like I'm going into some kind of depression spiral, then yeah, it benefits my skin as well. But I do need to be mindful of making sure that I shower like straight after I work out, because sometimes like, oh, I go to the pole studio and then I like go out to eat and do groceries and I'm still sweaty. But that's part of the next part, which is general hygiene. So during the day, try to avoid touching your face too much. Make sure you have clean hands. Try and cleanse like after exercising. And also having clean pillowcases. Regularly change your pillowcases like once a week, and making sure you have a clean face towel as well, because there's so much bacteria that gets built up on materials, especially when they're damp. So that could be affecting your skin as well. Like just make sure that your environment is clean. That's going to make such a huge difference to your skin. Another thing, which is a side note to like diet and stuff, because I guess anything that's not like essential to your survival, like food and water, is kind of considered a quote unquote drug. So in terms of like caffeine intake, like I don't drink that much. I only have like 1 to 2 shots of coffee a day, if at all. Alcohol, I barely drink, like barely. yeah, I'm definitely not a regular drinker. I'm more of like a social drinker. And even then now when I go out to bars and stuff, very often I'll just get a mocktail because I'm not crazy about drinking in general. And I actually feel like the trend moving forward is going to be more and more non-alcoholic options. I think alcohol is going to become like smoking. Less and less people are going to do it. Not that people don't still smoke, but definitely not the way that they used to. I think I saw this thing on Twitter that was like, it had a picture of George Costanza from Seinfeld and was like, this is what 29-year-olds used to look like. And then people in the thread saying that people used to age much faster back in the day because they had so much exposure to cigarette smoke, because you could smoke indoors, you could smoke in restaurants. Now, you know, smoking is nowhere near as prevalent or ubiquitous as it used to be. So like people can stay youthful for longer. So that's definitely something to think about if you are a smoker, and the way that it affects your skin and your collagen production, and just like your bank account and your wallet. And then vaping. I don't know about vaping's direct effect on your skin, but I don't think it has a great effect on your body as a whole. And I don't want to sound like a mom, but I also feel like it's just my duty to speak my truth, which is that vaping is fucked. It's going to be, the effects of vaping are probably going to be worse than smoking, because people that smoke, they can smoke for like their whole life until their body gets to a breaking point. But there are so many kids that are vaping, and within 2 years of them vaping regularly, they have serious health conditions that they need to figure out and like heal. So that's just something to keep in mind with vaping. Also, it's expensive. The cost of it adds up, and you could be spending no money on vaping and using that to buy other things that like actually serve a utility in your life and aren't just paying for poorer quality air. Think about the people who live in polluted areas and they don't even vape and they have to breathe poor quality air, and you're going out of your way to make the quality of the air that you breathe even worse, and then give yourself potential health problems later down the line. I basically like gaslight myself into not participating in vaping because I want to save money and because I'm petty. And I think that I don't want these like fucking tobacco CEOs to be making money. I don't want to be lining their pockets if I don't have to be, because they profit off people being unhealthy, people doing damage to themselves, and they encourage it too, and they market it to younger and younger audiences because it's less regulated. And I think that is just so fucked up, love. It's so fucked. I'm not going to judge anybody for vaping because I get why people get into it, like to manage anxiety and stuff, but long term, and you got to think long term, long game. A lot of people say that they start off using vaping as like a way to manage their anxiety, and then it makes their anxiety worse, especially when they aren't able to maintain like a consistent supply. Like if they run out, then they start having anxiety because they get withdrawals, and the withdrawals can be really intense, especially if you vape very regularly and if you're doing it with nicotine. So it's just something to think about, okay? You are hot and having fun. You are not born to be ugly or have a bad time. And when you allow your vices to get the best of you, long term, you're not going to be having a good time. So play the long game, and in your mind, just think to yourself, you were not born to line the pockets of an old white man. So, you know, it's kind of inevitable that we will be in just being alive and the products and services that we consume, but it may as well be things that actually are of benefit to us. And like, to me, vaping serves no real long-term benefit. Like, literally name one long-term benefit of vaping. I just don't know what it could be, because even if it's like short-term management of anxiety, long-term it just makes your anxiety worse. So there's that. Okay. Those are the non-product approaches, non-product things that I would keep in mind when it comes to skincare. So now my mindset and approach to skincare, I think of my skin as an organ now, which it is, the biggest organ, and not just in terms of like aesthetics and wanting to look good. So I want to feel good. And I think that's something that people talk about a lot. Like when it comes to weight loss, they say like, it's not about losing X amount of kilos. It's about how you think you will feel when you lose that amount of weight, giving yourself the ability to feel that way now instead of focusing on like a superficial outcome. You know, it's about the feeling. So you want to feel empowered, you want to feel confident. So work on being able to feel empowered and confident, which is like maybe what you want underneath wanting to have good skin. Like, yes, you want to look good, but what does looking good feel like to you? It's like feeling empowered, feeling confident, feeling comfortable in your own skin. So working on generating that feeling, focusing on that, which requires, you know, stress management, grounding exercises, and your general mindset towards life, instead of just like, I don't want to have pimples. You know what I mean? It's like, if you feel aligned and you feel grounded, then all the external things will align for you when you're working from the inside out, rather than going from the outside in, which would be focusing too much on products, focusing too much on how many pimples you do or don't have, and then thinking, and then allowing yourself to feel good. You know, if you feel good first, then that will shine through your pores as well. But it just takes more time, I think, and a lot more patience to get to that place. And I think especially with, you know, the way that we live now, everything's expected to be like an overnight result, instant gratification. We think, you know, one product, I'm just going to use it tonight and then tomorrow my skin will be cured. You need to be working like in 4, 6, and 8 week chunks of time, you know, in between that kind of amount of time, to see how things are actually like working on your skin or like affecting your body. So be patient. And yeah, like my skin, I kind of think of it as like an external reflection of my internal state. Obviously, like I still get breakouts before my period, or if I feel like I've been indulging a little too much and like processed sugars, I'll start to get a whitehead. If I have been reckless with makeup removal, that will also maybe trigger some breakouts. So it's just like managing instead of kind of, I don't know, obsessing. You know what I mean? I try not to think too much about it, but I try to be consistent in terms of how I approach skincare. But it did take, you know, a little bit of time for me to really focus and think about my approach before I was able to just kind of integrate it into my life and not really even have to think about it. So simple is best as well. Like I mentioned before, knowing that I can have a really simple skincare routine and it be maintained quite well, and then adding other products one by one, testing them one by one, instead of buying like 5 different products and then trying to use them all at once. So it's about being consistent and being patient and just not overwhelming yourself mentally or your skin physically. And I think a gentle approach is much better than a harsh or like attacking approach. I guess anyone that's watched Euphoria has seen that scene with Cassie where she does like 100 different things to her skin obsessively, and it's like, you don't need to go that far to have good skin. For the most part, it shouldn't be stressful. Like the stress that occurs in just like maintaining that kind of routine, especially for the attention of a boy, is not good for you long term. So simple and gentle is better. Like if I'm just doing skincare at home, I don't want to feel, quote unquote, a product working. Like I don't want to feel like tingling or burning sensations on my skin, because that suggests to me that I'm causing damage if I'm feeling pain. Unless I'm getting a skin treatment, which I don't do that often, I don't want to like feel the product working. I think that's like a bad sign. And we definitely, especially with Western skincare, it's like, and how harsh some of the products can be. It's like, oh, you need to feel it working. Like anyone that's used like apricot scrub or like those Neutrogena cleansers, I don't want to feel like scratching on my skin. Gentle is much better, and that's kind of the approach that a lot of Asian skincare takes. Your skin is assumed to be kind of like sensitive to begin with. You don't want to be using like, treat your skin as if it's sensitive, even if it's not sensitive, basically. So I also try to avoid picking at my skin. You know, sometimes it is very tempting, sometimes it is inevitable, but in general, like if a pimple starts coming up, I just let it be and try to do spot treatments at night instead of trying to pick out a pimple that's not yet ready. And if something is like inevitably going to pop, I'll try to control the damage and put like a sticker over it. And you know, if I do squeeze it, I'll make sure that I treat it properly and like, you know, clean around the area so that it doesn't get infected and so that it's not as prone to scarring. And then when I buy products, again, it's like trying to find the balance between stuff that's affordable, functional, and then kind of like other products that might be quote unquote premium in the sense that they have a lot of research behind them. And I just generally avoid anything that's like gimmicky or a designer product, because I find that stuff with too much fragrance and everything like can irritate my skin. Even if you don't have like any aversion to fragrance, it's like worth not avoiding it completely, but just like not going out of your way to integrate it into your skincare if you don't have to. The process of me like kind of overhauling my skin has probably been maybe like a 3 to 4 year process, I guess. Like when I started doing little things, and then I guess over the pandemic, especially the last 2 years, I had a lot more time to just sort of think about my approach to skincare. So I think the first thing that I would have done a few years ago is just kind of dispose of most of the skincare products I had bought, because I didn't know which ones did or didn't work, and I couldn't figure out a way to sort of balance using all of them and track it. And it was such a waste for me to do that, but it was kind of like a necessary step. So cutting all the crap. If I was wearing makeup, I would double cleanse. So oil cleanser and then gel-based cleanser or like foaming cleanser, aloe vera jojoba oil at night. Then in the day, I'd rinse my skin with water in the morning, pat dry, maybe spritz rose water, and then aloe vera jojoba oil, tiny bit of jojoba oil for daytime, and then SPF, and then makeup on top. And then, then I was kind of doing research and seeing which products worked the best for my particular skin, which is more like acne-prone combination skin. And then I would introduce like one product at a time. So I think 2 years ago, I started using retinol. I started using the ordinary retinol, and that they recommend that you take like 6 to 8 weeks to sort of see results. And I did get some light peeling with it, but I did also see an improvement in skin texture. And then later on, I changed to like the Paula's Choice one. And then I introduced the BHA from Paula's Choice, and I kind of I alternate because I don't use them on the same nights, and then I have like 1 or 2 days a week where I don't use any active ingredients, really, like any harsh active ingredients. I feel like niacinamide is kind of in everything, and I have like a serum that has niacinamide in it, but I kind of consider it like a pretty neutral active, I guess, or ingredient. And then for spot treatments, I use pimple stickers from CosRx, or castor oil, which is really good for spot treatments. And also I put that on my eyebrows and my eyelashes every now and then to kind of condition them, and it's helped my eyelashes grow a lot, actually. Like I used it really consistently for a few months and my eyelashes grew so much, and now I just put it on like occasionally when I remember, and I think it's maintained the length. So yeah, you can look on my Instagram. I have highlights where I talk about my skincare now. It's like this same sort of general structure of skincare. So like nighttime, it's 2-step cleanse, oil cleanse, then foaming cleanser, then toner, then serum, maybe if I can be bothered, or active ingredients and or actives, which would be retinol or BHA, then moisturizer, and then a balm to like seal it all in. I use the CeraVe healing ointment or something, and then there's also like a bunch of different dupes that you can buy for it. So I think like for me, because I have oily skin, you're definitely taught to think that oil is bad for oily skin and you have to strip it of oil. That's not really the case. I feel like there's a lot of research now that shows you don't need to avoid oil. If you have oily skin, you just need to be mindful of which oils you use. So jojoba oil is a great oil because it's neutral and it like mimics the sebum in your skin or something. So yeah, it's really important to be moisturized as well. I feel like if your skin is oily, that means it's not getting enough moisture, so your skin is producing more oil to overcompensate. So if you can moisturize your skin well, keep it hydrated, then it's not going to be producing as much oil. At least for me, that's what I found. So that's been the approach. Another thing that I did cosmetically was microneedling for my acne scars. I think I did a few treatments of it. It is quite expensive, and you do need to be really mindful of like healing time in between. But I think it did help, and because it's expensive, I don't really want to do it again for a while. So that's why I'm like more motivated to keep my skin, to take better care of my skin like on a daily basis, so I can avoid having to pay a lot of money for like these sorts of treatments. Because my approach to skincare is like, it should just integrate into my life. I shouldn't have to like write out like a $500 a month budget for my skincare if I don't have to. If I want to at any point splurge, I can. But I think it's just, like, skincare should be accessible to everybody regardless of your socioeconomic status. And because I've tried really simplified skincare to more complicated and expensive skincare, I think it is possible, but it also does require like management of stress and like your general well-being to have good skin. So yeah, consistency is really important. It doesn't mean you have to use the same products every single night, but it's like, okay, if I'm trying out like a retinol or an acid, I need to be using it 2 to 3 times a week for at least 6 to 8 weeks until I can see the results. Don't check in obsessively every day being like, is my skin better? Is my skin better? Like, you'll see the most dramatic difference if you start and then you don't really think about it, you just do it, and then a few weeks later you check in and think, okay, wait, I can actually see a difference here. And you can also take before and after pics if you need. I don't do that really because I can't be bothered. When I've tried, I've just forgotten. Another thing for me is like, because I'm so dedicated to my skincare routine now and like going to bed with a clean face and being moisturized, if I'm like sleeping over at someone's house, I would just take my skincare with me. I think I can only handle like one night without it. Then I can give them a little facial too. So yeah, that's my skincare routine, my approach to skincare. I hope this was somewhat helpful. It's so tough when you're going through a problematic skin period, especially now because there's so, like, everyone's so chronically online. You always see people who have great skin, perfect skin, but yeah, it's normal to have texture in your skin. It's normal to have breakouts. I think, at the same time as we see these like perfect images online, more and more people are talking about like their real experiences and being honest about their skincare #struggles. So my empathy is with you if you are going through this, but whatever information you're getting on the internet, for the most part, you can kind of ignore, or like in terms of thinking that you have to buy new products all the time, try new products all the time, keep it simple and then slowly introduce one active at a time and see the difference it makes on your skin. And then you'll be like, then you'll know what works and you won't feel the need to like constantly switch it up. I only feel the need to switch it up when I'm about to run out of a product. And even then, now I just buy the same product that I did before. Like, I don't really need to like change anything dramatically in terms of my routine or my lifestyle now. It stays like pretty stable and consistent. But who knows? If anything changes, you'll be the first to know. So yeah, thank you so much for listening. Make sure you follow me on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Spotify, SoundCloud at Amber Akilla, and the Instagram for the podcast at friend.crush. Send me your thoughts, questions, feedback, and yeah, I want to do the Q&A at the end of each episode now. So send me questions you want me to ask you think might be relevant to the class. And we might have a break for a month or so on the podcast just so I can pre-record some more episodes and think about the next season. But let's see. Yeah. Thanks for listening. Stay hydrated. Tell your friends and family that you love them. And go be a better person. Bye.